In Jujutsu Kaisen, Yuta has always been portrayed or shown to be Namutobi and Gojo. From the return to the Culling game, where the narrator says that Yuta is only second to Gojo in this generation, and you also have Gojo himself asking Yuta personally to keep an eye on Yuji, and you also have Maki calling Yuta the insurance in case Gojo loses the fight against Sukuna, are all valid points or valid arguments that prove that in narrative way, Yuta has always been set up to be the next Gojo. But recently on social media, there's been a lot of discourse surrounding Yura's name and his lack of involvement in the fight against Sukuna. Some people are calling him a fraud, and some people are calling him coward, but I think those people are missing some key context surrounding the whole fight between Gojo and Sukuna. But in this video, I would like to go over, before going to my own theory about how Yura's gonna be effective in the end, I want to go over some event from Volume 0 because to this day some of the information is still relevant. Since Volume 0, Yuta has always been shown or presented to be a character with insane talent. All that goes back to the fact that Yuta is a descendant of Mizusani Sugawara, a sorcerer from the Heian era, which also makes him a distant relative to Gojo. He was assigned the title of Special Grade Sorcerer just by having Rika on his side, and for Rika, just to show how powerful she is, Geto states that having Rika on his side would have been even more beneficial than having all the curses that he collected throughout the whole show. And to show how crazy that statement is on his own, while using the maximum Uzumaki against Yuta, Geto explained that this technique combines the power of 4,461 curses, and many of them are presumed to be special good curses. And we know that in the final moments of the Shibuya incident stated by Kenjaku, he says that Geto had actually only used half of his curses because he had to spread them out against the sorcerers in order for him to be able to isolate Yuta and his team. With all that information, the fact that Geto, a special good sorcerer, the character in the series who has probably the most knowledge on curses, well, beside Kenjaku and of course Tengen, while Geto was explaining that having Rika on his side would have been more effective than having over 8,000 and now 1,000 curses, just to highlight how crazy Rika is. After proclaiming his love to Rika, Yuta was able to use her full power and gain the ability of copying curse technique and having boundless amount of curse energy at his disposal, and he was able to go toe-to-toe against Geto. But even to this day, we are not too sure about the condition of his copy curse technique. In the Culling game, it is kinda implied that Rika needs some kind of DNA from a sorcerer, like some blood, to actually copy the curse technique from the sorcerer. This panel over here kinda proves my point, as we see Rika biting Uo's arm, and afterward Yuta was able to use Tina's Breaker, Uo's curse. So that argument could actually make sense with what Giga has shown us in the series. But what about Inumaki? How did Yuta get his curse? I'm not too sure Yuta is gonna bite his arm because Inumaki is basically his best friend, and that doesn't make sense. That's way out of character for him. That's why this argument is kinda happening here, because there's no explanation from Giga himself explaining how Yuta copies curses, but I think that argument of the DNA is the most plausible one for now. After getting sealed, Gojo kinda hypes up Yuta and reminds Kenjaku that he's the one that defeated Geto in the past and that he'll come back and do it again. But Kenjaku remarks that Yuta can never be the new Gojo. Even though Kenjaku knows that Yuta has copy curse technique and a boundless amount of curse energy alongside Rika, he doesn't believe that Yuta will be a problem for him. But I'm pretty sure in that moment Kenjaku is talking about Volume 0 Yuta, because at that time Yuta was never introduced to the main cast, and we still didn't know if he still had Rika, because if you remember at the end of Volume 0, he actually lost Rika because the curse was undone and he lost his special grade status. So if Kenjaku is talking about that Yuta, he's definitely right. Like, I'm pretty sure that we can all agree that Kenjaku beats that Yuta pretty easily. But if Kenjaku is then playing the current Yuta, he may regret it because he's no joke. I think he's top 5 in the verse right now. Okay, my top 5 would be Sukuna, Gojo, Kenjaku, Kashima, then Yuta. But everything in the narrative pretty much points on Yuta facing off against Kenjaku. Kenjaku was actually Yuta's first target when he arrives at a Culling game, and the whole fight between these two is a pretty cool callback to the first fight on Volume 0, the first major fight of the series, Yuta and Geto, and seeing them rematch again, even though we know Geto is Kenjaku actually, but I think that's pretty cool. But before going to the final topic of the video, I've been seeing too much Yuta slander. Like, I think the memes of him going to Africa while everyone is in Shibuya is funny, but some people take it too far, man. All that started because Yuta was getting word for Gojo during his fight against Sukuna. And mind you, Gojo is basically Yuta's father. He saved him from the Jujutsu High, I think so. So it makes sense for him being word for Gojo. And Sukuna is the one who pushed Gojo to the absolute limit and just killed him in chapter 236. And people always forget to mention that Yuta was the first one who was ready to fight alongside Gojo when Sukuna summoned Maharaga and Agito. So I don't understand the fraud allegation. He is basically the character with the most wins in the series. He never took a L. He was the MC before Yuji. So I don't get the slander, bro. Like, the memes can be hilarious, the jokes, the TikToks, all that can be hilarious. But some people just wanna apply that knowledge on Yuta as a character and wanna downplay him in a fight, even though Yuta never runs from smoke. Like, I just had to get that off my chest. In chapter 181, Ishiguro states that Yuta is reaching his limit, and what lays on the horizon above sorcerers is overwhelming aggression that disregards all else like a calamity, and the partner that portrays it shows Sukuna in its original body. Ishiguro proceeds to call Yuta soft, and then realizes that Yuta was only keeping them alive just for the points. And in that panel, it is kind of implied that Yuta was holding back because even himself was like, maybe I was holding back. So he wasn't going to all out just to keep the points and to help Megumi with his sister. So maybe Yuta is even more powerful than we know, and the fight against Kenjaku is going to show his full ability and potential or techniques. We know that Sukuna's understanding of strength is to disregard anything that doesn't serve him, anything that doesn't entertain him. He lives based on what he wants and what he needs. Throughout the story of Jujutsu Kaisen, sorcerers who have been selfish have always been rewarded. This is what Gojo was trying to teach Megumi earlier in the series. It's okay to be selfish. Jujutsu sorcerer is a solo sport, and you will always die alone, so it's okay to worry about yourself when it matters the most. And the same thing happened to Gojo when he was fighting Toji. After his awakening, he was fully doing it for himself, as he even apologized to Amanai as he felt nothing for her even after her death. But all those principles pretty much go against Yuta's character. He's always been someone who cared about his friends first. That's why him having Kopiko's technique is so perfect. He's always been inspired by his peers and feels blessed to have them around to keep him grounded. He's pretty much the polar opposite of that mentality, but even then, he's able to reach the special gate status and be renowned as the second beyond Satoru Gojo in this generation. With all that being said, that's why I think that Yuta will be the next calamity in Jujutsu Kaisen and will be the key of defeating Kenjaku in the end. Thank you for watching and stay safe.